first being the Bitcoin halving. Back in 2020, before the halving, price of Bitcoin was $8,000. Fast forward to November of 2021, cycle top, we maxed out at 69,000. For context, that's only about a year and a half. And if you would have put $1,000 into Bitcoin before the halving, you would have saw a 900% return on your investment. It's not something I'm trying to miss again. So let's just say we get that same 900% from the current price, which as of making this video is about 30,000. We could be seeing a $275,000 Bitcoin by the end of this next cycle. Now, let's be realistic here. We know history doesn't ever repeat exactly. So let's say we only get half of that 900%. We are still looking at a six-figure Bitcoin. Now, there's another side to this narrative. That's the mining side. Because the Bitcoin halving is going to reduce block rewards from 6.2 to 3.1, miners are going to have to work a little bit harder to stay in profit. But what is this going to mean for the price? According to JP Morgan, after the halving, the production cost to mine Bitcoin is supposed to increase to $40,000. Currently, it sits at around 29,000. You can find this out on Macro Micro. So what happens if it goes to $40,000? Well, the very first thing that's going to happen is miners' profits are going to start shrinking dramatically. And according to Kevin Zhang, Senior VP of Mining Strategy at Foundry, for miners to keep the same profit margins after the halving, Bitcoin's price will have to rise to 50 to 60,000 next year. Now, a related report from Matrixport predicts even higher numbers. They say 45,000 by the end of the year and 125,000 by the end of 2024. Whether this will play out before or after the halving, we can't be sure. But what we can be sure of is that the big miners are definitely moving in. Here are the September numbers from some of the biggest miners in the space. Marathon Digital produced 1,242 Bitcoins, a 16% increase from August and a 245% jump for the year. Riot Platforms increased its mining output by 9%, mining 362 Bitcoin. CleanSpark, which focuses on renewable sources for Bitcoin mining, we'll touch on that in a second, mined 643 Bitcoin, bringing their yearly number to 6,903. For context, because that may not seem like a lot, that's over 2,000 Bitcoin mined in the month of September. And with this recent price pump, that's about $100 or so million. But the key thing to take note of is that they all attribute this increase in production to the coming Bitcoin halving. Looks like they want to stay in profit for a while. Another layer to this mining narrative is the renewables. And if you look at data from this year, more than 50% of the Bitcoin being mined is being mined with renewable energy sources. Now, what I did was I went all the way to the top, because if you break this down by country, you find out some very interesting information. Let's start in the US. The US uses 22.5% renewables for their Bitcoin mining. Kazakhstan uses 11.3%, China 30.2%. Yes, they're still mining. Russia 18.5%, and Canada comes in at 69.7% renewables. This is courtesy of Visual Capitalist and a report they did with the Hive Corporation. It also includes data from wind, solar, and water. On that note, we can't forget about the geothermal movement occurring in El Salvador. All of that brings me to my last point on Bitcoin. This is not the same Bitcoin. We have ordinals now, which are bringing utility to Bitcoin, and this is also opening the conversation for compatibility with Ethereum. Can you imagine that? People like to put them at odds all the time, but what if they started to work together? Again, not the same Bitcoin. And on top of that, we have the Lightning Network, which according to River, a Bitcoin technology and financial services company, has seen a 1,200% increase in activity since its inception. River leads the market with a low-code solution for incorporating the Lightning Network into business. They use the number of users, transaction, and volume to estimate the growth of the network. And here's what they found. For August, 6.6 million transactions were recorded. Compare this to August of 2021, when only 503,000 were recorded. Now, this growth was in spite of the fact that Bitcoin's price dropped 44% and search interest for Bitcoin also dropped another 45%. Even with that, again, we see utility rising. The main use cases driving the transactions came from gaming, social media tipping, and streaming, all of which can also be referred to as Web 3. So there is a Web 3 world on Bitcoin. Not a lot of people talking about it.